Life family. I'll pull this over here a little bit. Whoa, talk about moving. It's fantastic. Okay, guys, this is it. Are you, this is our last evening together. Our last evening, I know, breaking up's hard to do, some of you are literally going home tonight. Is that right? Well, who's driving home tonight? You guys are the overachievers. So you guys have a long night ahead of you. You've got a couple hours of drive ahead of you and stuff. Rumor has it, though, that a number of you in this room have a long night ahead of you. We've talked to the hotel staff, and they said that they've got glimpses of your room. It looks like a Forever 21 and a Kohl's and a Domino's Pizza and a 7-Eleven got in a steel cage match fight in your room, and there's like stuff everywhere, and it's gonna take a little while to kind of sift through all that and get it all back into your suitcase tonight. And that's important because you know that whoever's doing laundry back home, the last thing they want to do is be opening up the bold move suitcase and pulling out someone else's underwear. That's just awkward for whoever that might be, right? So you do your hard work tonight, you get it all back together. In all seriousness, where are my introverts in the room? Who's looking forward to getting back to their own room? Yeah. No doubt. You got your friends are great, but something about living together for a week, you learn a lot of new things about your friends, don't you? In fact, if you're sitting next to one of your roommates, like literally on the right or on the left, I'm not talking about 3 seats down, I'm like on the right or left, if you're still sitting next to them right now, I want you to give them a high five. All right, well done, that's amazing. That's about a third of the people in the room. So what that means is, if your roommate's about 4 or 5 seats down, maybe 6 rows back or whatever, I want you just to kind of look over them and give them one of these. Like, I got you, don't worry, okay, give them one of these. Now, you know in this moment that does not mean peace, right? You know in that moment that means, hey, we're friends, but if we don't get some time apart, I'm going to kill you, right? Right? I know. All right. Well, hey, we are packing up tonight. And I have 2 questions for you. 2 questions for you. As you all came into Kansas City, as you came into Challenge, every single one of us in this room, we all came here with certain things packed into our lives. We came with relationships, we came with priorities, we came with certain values, we came with certain views of ourselves, certain views of others, certain perceptions about God. We came in here with secrets, we came in here with all sorts of things. Every one of us came in here with things packed into our lives. Question for you. Are you simply going to leave tonight and take everything you came in here with and just pack that all back up and just be like, all right, that was great, Challenge 2018, that was fantastic. Okay, what's next on the summer calendar? Oh, soccer camp, it's family vacation, it's going back to be a lifeguard at the pool, and we just kind of move on. It's here for the lifeguards in the room. Second question is this. So that's the first question. Are you merely going to leave here with everything that you came in, and is this week just simply a little blip on the calendar of your life? And secondly, this question. Is there anything that God has done, anything that He's shown you, anything that He's revealed about Himself, anything that you've experienced, maybe in a prayer time, maybe in your huddle time, maybe out while you were serving? Is there anything that God has done that you are saying tonight, oh, I'm telling you what, there is no way in the world that can get kicked under the hotel room bed floor, that there's no way that can be left under the bleachers. I don't know, I'm gonna have to make some decisions tonight how we're gonna get it all back in here, but I'm telling you this, that has to come with me. That can't stay here in Kansas City. Two questions. And we're gonna come back to those at the evening. I wanna tell you at the front end, those are the two questions I really want us to look at tonight. Those are the two questions I want us to spend some time on tonight. And later tonight, before we turn the volume up in this place, we're gonna turn it down in this place, and we're gonna come back to those two questions. But I've been asking God over the last couple months, and then significantly over this last few weeks, and then all through this week, God, what is it you wanna say to us? How do you wanna send us out of here? And I'm like, I could tell this story, and we could tell this story, and we could go to this place, and we could go to this passage. And over again, I just sense the Spirit of God saying to me, you give them a bold vision of me. And I'm like, yeah, I know, God, but God, like, it's the last night. And like, our theme's bold moves. I don't know if you've been listening, God, but it's bold moves. And we got what one final push as we get out of here. And over again, I simply hear him say, you give them a bold vision of me. If they don't see me, their bold God who's on the move, they will never be people who kneel before me. If they don't see me, their bold God who's on the move, who has been on the move, is on the move, will continue to be on. If they don't have a vision of me, if they're not actually pursuing me, and they've got their mind just focused on, oh, and I also jam my bold move in here, there'll never be people who stand and are able to stand when everyone else around them has every little wind of doctrine coming around them, every little shifting, confusing thing, and they'll never be able to stand and go, I know it might not make sense, but I see him and I believe him and I hold to him and his ways, and I'm willing to be a little peculiar in this world because I have a vision of him. And there'll never be a people who have my heart, who genuinely care for the person who's sitting next to them right now and helps that person continue to walk with me, and there'll never be people who are willing to walk to others. So I want to let Jesus paint a big picture of himself as we end, just as a little exclamation point. Is that all right tonight? So will you open up with me to John chapter 10, And we're gonna let Jesus use his own words to paint a picture of himself. Not my words, not my experience, this is how I've seen him. We're gonna let Jesus paint a picture of Jesus. And as you turn there, John chapter 10, would you pray again with me? My Father in heaven, I pray in the name of your Son who sits at your right hand, that you would open up our eyes and you would open up our ears, that we might see you. And we might know you as our bold God who is moving. And may the vision of you, may that vision, may that be the motivation, may that be the wind in our sails, may that give us courage, may that give us perseverance in the midst of trial. We ask in your name. Help us now. Amen. John chapter 10, verse 14. Verse 14, this is, in 5 words, Jesus is going to paint a picture for us. All right, here they are. Verse 14, ready? I am the good shepherd. And that didn't get any woohoos. Let me try again. No, that's okay. That's okay. I'll try it again. I am the good shepherd, period. Now I think you're just doing that for me. I don't really. See, I think probably as we read those first words, I am the good shepherd, that just felt a little flat, didn't it? Like, really? Like, I have a feeling that some of my youth pastor buddies in the room would like wanted to do a little timeout moment if they could, kind of stop time, a little Avengers moment or something, stop time, walk up here, kind of take me aside. Shane, we love you. We love you, buddy. We love you. I know you've been busy through the week and stuff. I don't know if you were in here, but the theme is bold moves and stuff. And I don't know if you know, but there's a lot more bold images in here of Jesus. Like, then I'm a good shepherd. I mean, you could have went with like Lion of Judah. I mean, those lions are bold. You could have went with like Alpha and Omega and like we're going to live the bold move in the middle. You could have went with like bright and morning star. I mean, like, like a new day's dawning as we go out of here. I mean, Shane, there's so many other places you could have went than like, I'm a good shepherd, So many other places. And so, Shane, I don't even think most of them are even listening right now because they're still wondering why their roommate's not sitting next to them. So you can go ahead if you want, and you could change it, and they wouldn't even know. And I just want to say to you, dear youth pastor friends of mine, I love you. I'm going to take that into consideration. Okay, we're going to stay in John chapter 10. Is that all right? Is that all right? And I wonder if some of you students, as you hear, I am the good shepherd, you're just going like, really? Because Shane, I don't know if you know some of the stuff that I came in here with. Or maybe you're going, Shane, I don't know if you know some of the stuff I'm going back to. And I need a little more than I'm a good shepherd to go with me. And I wonder if the reason that is because when we hear that, when we hear I'm the good shepherd, when we hear Jesus say that, we get a picture in our mind, and it is not even close to the picture that Jesus was trying to paint. It's not even close to what his hearers in that day heard. See, let's do a little test real quick. Let's just see if I'm right. I want you to close your eyes for a moment. Close your eyes. A little tighter. Not that tight that you go blind, good grief. Okay, now, close your eyes, and I want you to just, in your mind, imagine a big, gaudy gold frame like you'd see in a museum. Got it in your mind? And now, let's just say Jesus' words again, I'm a good shepherd. What painting would you put in there? What painting would Lance put in there for us? I am a good shepherd. What would you see? Now open your eyes. Here's the picture that I bet most of us in this room just painted. We got like, let's see, background. We got like nice blue sky behind us, right? Maybe some little grassy knoll, some hills, a couple wildflowers here or there. Less is more, not too many. It's not like standing in a big old wildflower field, just, a couple here or there. Probably like a big rock. I don't know why we always put these big rocks in pictures with Jesus, but somehow, maybe it's because Jesus is my rock and he rolls my blues away. I don't know. We just put these big rocks there, right? And what else? Well, Jesus. Jesus is there. He's got brown hair. He's got like totally waxed beard, like none of this like Duck Dynasty, none of this like Harley Davidson kind of wild man kind of thing that some of you got. I've seen you and stuff. I mean, it's like totally groomed and stuff. Looking around this room, most of you think he's white. We're going to go ahead and we're going to let you pretend. We just don't even have time for that right now. All right, our dear Lebanese friends who are here, thank God you're here. You can talk to them afterwards. All right, and then what else? Wearing like a giant white bathrobe, right? And then now this is where it's going to get a little different. Some of you blue sash, some of you red sash, some of you purple sash, right? Just kind of depends and things. And I know they're bringing back the fanny packs. Just pray they don't bring back the sash. No sashes back. All right, so we got sash going on, and then what else? Oh yeah, sheep. Over here, big old thing of sheep. Probably about 99 of them, right? 99, right? Because he's got a reckless love. We know. All right, 99. All right, and then I just saw it right here, right over. Oh yeah, what's he got around his neck? Nice, cute, cuddly little lammy. Loves his lammy. And he's just smiling, not creepy smile, not too big smile, not kind of like, no, just like just warm inside. And he's just like, I love him, I hold him, I call him, he's my lammy. Yep, he keeps running off, but I've got a reckless love, right? And he goes and gets him. I love that song, by the way, just bear with me. All right, and so he's got this, that's the picture that we have. And friends, that is not even close to what came in their minds, and not even close of the picture that Jesus was painting. Here's a little secret when you're reading God's word, especially in the Gospels. When you read something and a few verses later, and I didn't read them, but a few verses later, what you'll see is they're literally saying like, that dude's got a demon. You know, a few more verses later, they're picking up stones and ready to throw them at him. That's probably a good indication as you're reading that you're like, you know, in your little quiet time, you're like, don't call Jewish people sheep because sheep are stupid. They don't like it. You know, thank you. Help me on my algebra tests. Give me a good day. Bye. Right? Not even close. It's a good indication that there's probably, if they're going to stone Jesus for this, it's not because they're like, man, they don't like good shepherds. It's because there's a different picture that he's painting. And so here's what I want you to do. In your mind, I want you to erase that whiteboard. I want you to erase that picture. And we're going to flip back. What they heard, where it was coming from, what they all knew actually was Jesus was tapping back into something the prophet Ezekiel had said almost like 500, 600 years earlier. In Ezekiel chapter 1, you could turn there with me if you want. Otherwise, keep your finger in John 10 or keep your double tap finger on John 10 if you got your little iPhone out, whatever it might be. Ezekiel chapter 1, Ezekiel, let me just quick context here. Who's Ezekiel? Ezekiel, he's an Old Testament prophet. Ezekiel was living in Jerusalem, right? This big old bad nation of Babylon had come in, had taken over Jerusalem. They had pulled people out. And literally, Ezekiel is writing, which just connects well for us as those of you who went through the Apex experience, he's writing from a refugee camp in Babylon. And in the middle of this, here he is on his birthday, and he's grieving over what has happened to his city. He's grieving over what has happened to the people of God. He's grieving over what's going to happen, and he's praying, and he's asking God. And as he's praying, he sees this vision. And the vision he sees is not little lammy Jesus. Can I paint the picture for you a little bit? The picture he sees, it says, is that there is this massive storm cloud rolling in with thunder and lightning and dark clouds. And out of the storm cloud, out of this cloud comes this huge platform. A platform way bigger than this, way bigger than this room. A massive platform that would go across several states. It's coming down out of the sky, and there's something above it, and there's something below it. And he's trying to describe what he's seeing. And as he tries to describe it, he goes, this platform, it's got legs. But they're not made of wood, they're not made of gold, they're not made of silver. What are they made? Well, what are they made of, Shane? Oh, I'm so glad you asked. He says there are 4 living creatures, and literally these 4 living creatures, they have 4 faces. One's the face of a man, they have a face of a lion, the face of an ox, and the face of an eagle. And each of them have 4 wings, and with 2 of their wings, they're stretching them out, and they're touching the wings of those that are on the other corners. And with 2 of their wings, they're covering themselves from the holiness of what's above. He says they're standing on spheres, these like circles, these wheels. He can hardly describe them. He says their feet are like hooves, and wherever they go, the spheres go with them, rising, moving with them. And then he begins to describe what's above the platform. And this is what he says. Listen to this. He says, above the platform, above the surface, was something that looked like a throne made of blue lapis lazuli. Say lapis lazuli. Now say it to your friend next to you with a little Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's just fun to say. Lapis lazuli. What in the world's lapis lazuli? It's this like blue onyx stone. He says, on the surface, on this platform that's coming down, there's this massive throne. It's this massive blue, brilliant blue throne. And on the throne, high above, was a figure whose appearance, he resembled man. It looked like a man, but it wasn't a man. It was more than a man, but it had an image of a man. And then he says, and from what appeared to be his waist up, he was like glowing, translucent amber, and there's like flickering flames. And from his waist down, it was just like a bright, brilliant flame. You can picture Ezekiel. He's just like guarding his eyes as he sees it. And he says all around him, he says, and then he's a halo, not like a little halo. He's saying like there is a massive halo, and you can listen to Ezekiel trying to describe this as he sees. He's like, it's like a rainbow in the sky on a rainy day. This massive beams of light that are going from one end to the other end. And Ezekiel says, this is what the glory of the Lord looked like to me. And what did he do? What did he do? Did he just look at it and be like, meh? Did he pull out his phone and be like, oh, look, selfie with the glory of God? You know? No. It literally says, no, when I saw it, I fell face down on the ground. No little lammy Jesus here. And you're saying, well, how does that connect? How does that connect to the Good Shepherd? Well, God speaks to him. Interestingly enough, he's on the ground. The voice comes from the throne. It literally tells him, interestingly enough, to stand, and then it tells him to walk. It tells him, hey, I'm sending you. I'm sending you to a particular people with a particular message in a particular place. And you hear his message all through Ezekiel, and then Ezekiel 34, here it is, this message from God that Ezekiel's bringing, and it says this. It says that this is what the sovereign Lord says. The one who's on that throne, this is what he says. This is what he's speaking. He says, the people, the reason you're in this mess is because the spiritual leaders, they're like bad shepherds. They care only about themselves. They care only about themselves. And then he actually says at the end, he says, and the sheep, they're fighting against each other, and they're not caring for one another. And right in the middle, he says, I myself, the sovereign shepherd king who sits on that lapis lazuli throne, I myself will search and find my sheep. I'll be like a shepherd to them, to this scattered flock. I'll find my sheep. I'll rescue them. I'll bring them back home. I'll feed them. I'll give them good pasture land. I myself will tend my sheep. I will search for the lost ones. I will heal the injured. I will feed justice to those who have abused my flock. See, this is the image that Jesus was painting. This is our bold God, friends. And he is on the move. No little lammy Jesus. And jump back with me to John 10, because listen to what he says. Where is he on the move? We've covered it all week long. Let's summarize it together. Let's let Jesus summarize it. I'm the good shepherd. New picture, hopefully, in our minds. I know my own sheep, and they know me. Where is he on the move? First, he's on the move towards you. Earlier, he says it this way in verse 3. The sheep recognize the voice of the shepherd, and they come to him, and he calls his own sheep by name, and he leads them out. And after he has gathered his own flock, he walks ahead of them, and they follow him because they know his voice. He is moving towards you. He says this sovereign God who sits on the throne, ruling and reigning, that Tim described for us earlier, he's the one that holds all things together. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. And this room is held together, and every person in this room is held together by him. And the universe that's expanding, he's not going, oh shoot, it's expanding. In that universe that Tim described that's expanding, he holds all together. He is infinite, and yet he's intimate. He's this king, this God. He's moving towards you. He knows who you are. He knows you, it says, by name. He knows who you're not, and he knows who you are, and he's not standing there with his arms crossed, shaking his head in disappointment. As Ben said earlier this week, our God, he loves you, and he knows you. And he's calling you to himself. And he's saying, I want to lead you somewhere. Will you come with me? Guys, I was in a room like this one and a basketball arena like this one just a few months ago. It was in Colorado State University, at Moby Auditorium, it's called. I had not been in that room for 29 years, but 29 years earlier, I was 14 years old, about 5'1", skater cut, kind of chunky, getting ready to go into my freshman year. I was sitting in that room and it was full of teenagers like this one. And I would have been sitting right up where some of you are sitting, right up there. And I remember, for the first time, really hearing God's voice. And at 14 years old, I had heard about Jesus. I had heard that he loved me. I had asked him. When I was little, when I was described of, would you want hell or you want fire or streets of gold? Jesus is the way to the streets of gold. It was like, okay, I'll take the streets of gold. I don't know. That fire sounds bad, right? I had asked for his forgiveness, but I sat there at 14 trying to figure out who I am. I'm wrestling I'm one person with my family. I'm another person when I'm in youth group. I'm another person with this friends. I'm another person when I'm alone. I'm juggling all of these different identities. I'm just telling you, it's getting tired. And then I'm sitting there in that seat right up where you're at. And at 14 years old, I hear his voice for the first time. Shane, I want your life. I want your life, not just your after this life. I want your life, all of it. And I remember just kind of like starting to read off my resume to God, which is kind of silly. I'm just like, God, you know my life. I come from this multiple divorced family. You know there's abuse and things. There's so much insecurity in here. There's so much anger in here. There's lust in here. There's so many things in here. God, you know what I'm not. I'm not a great athlete. I'm not a musician. I don't even really like books. I don't know how to play Fortnite. I don't have much to offer. I don't have much to offer you. And I just hear again, as if like to say, I didn't ask that. That's not the issue. I want your life. Will you follow me? Will you give me your life? You heard Chris Brown say it earlier this week. I don't want just a part of your life. I want to be the very purpose of your life. And guys, I'm telling you, when I think back to that chair up there, and I think about the last 29 years to here, and I think of all the twists and turns and all the ups and downs, and there were plenty of times where instead of letting Jesus lead and go, you can have the wheel, that I was like, oh, it's a British car, Lord, you're in the passenger seat now. Over and over again, every time careening into some new things, into some walls, and some disappointment. And I think back, though, to that first time saying, yes, Jesus, I'm telling you, I don't regret one bit of it. In fact, here he is again. He's calling me out again, calling our family out again. And in the midst of that, you know what? It's easier to say yes to him today. Because as I look back up to there, all the way to here, every time I've said yes to him, he's always led, not always in the easiest place, as Emily said earlier, but he has always been faithful. It's always led to joy. It's always led to goodness. This bold God who's on the move, he is moving towards you and he's calling you by name. Will you follow him? He's not just moving towards you, he's moving between you. Look what it says next. I know my own sheep and they know me, just as my Father knows me and I know the Father. So I sacrifice my life for the sheep. I sacrifice my life for the sheep. What is that? Shepherds don't sacrifice their lives for the sheep. Shepherds raise sheep to be sacrificed. What in the world's going on here? Listen, friends, listen. You have a problem. You have a couple problems. Sin, Satan, and death. We've heard it all week long. It doesn't bother us to say it again. Jesus, he says later, just a few verses later, he says, I voluntarily laid down my life for you, and I take it up again so that you might have life that's truly life. Not only do you have a sin problem, but we also have a real enemy. If you flip over to verse 10, he says this. Jesus says, listen, he calls him in one place in verse 10, he says, you have a real enemy, and that enemy he describes here as the thief. Reed talked about it earlier. He said, remember, he described the devil, and he said the devil or Satan or Lucifer or whatever you want to call him, the evil one, the dark kingdom. Jesus here describes him as the thief. In verse 12, he describes him as a wolf, the hound of hell. And the reality is, friends, is this enemy hates you. And in verse 10, it says very clearly, Jesus says very specifically that this enemy, he has a mission. It is to steal from you, to kill you, and destroy you. That's his mission. He's very good at it. He wants to steal your joy. He wants to steal what God's been doing here. He wants to steal your purpose. He wants to kill any sense that you have any identity as the son or daughter of the Most High God. And he ultimately wants to destroy you. It's no fairy tale. There's no little red devil. This is a very real enemy that we have. In verse 12, he describes him as the wolf. And he says the wolf has two favorite tactics. Two favorite tactics. His favorite tactic is when he snarls his teeth, when he comes at us, he loves to scatter us so that we would be isolated from the shepherd's voice and the shepherd's flock. His two favorite tactics separate us from the voice of Jesus and from the people of Jesus. Guys, as we head out of here, sometimes every time, every challenge that comes around, every single time over these last 10 years, somewhere in the week as I'm praying, this vision comes in my mind that the dark kingdom at times is like this, with their hands back. You go ahead. We'll wait here in Iowa City. We'll wait here in Fargo. We'll wait here in Laredo. We'll wait here in Minneapolis. You go ahead, you have your little Jesus, you go have your Jesus party, and we'll wait. They'll be back. And when they come back, we'll come with them with the same tactics that we always have. We'll seek to separate them from the shepherd's voice and from the shepherd's people. Think about what's happened here this week. You have sent many of you. God has done incredible things. He's called some of you to life. He has called some of you out. He's calling some of you to certain things. You've heard him, so many of you. Why is that? What's happened here? We've saturated ourselves for 5 days in God's word in lots of different venues. This is just one of them, in little huddles and in our equipping labs and everything else. We've saturated, and don't you find it interesting? That you're like, I feel closer to God. I just feel I feel like I know him more. Because he loves to reveal himself through his word. But the enemy will always come and seek to isolate us from God's word. In fact, we put on your seats today. Brandon will talk about it a little bit later. We put on your seats today a tool that would basically is just Luke and Acts. It's just God's words. We just put it in so that the challenge can move on beyond here. And I know what's going to happen. Some of you are going to be tempted just to kick it underneath your chair and walk out. His second tactic, though, is this. He loves to separate us from God's people. Do you ever find it interesting that When you know that you're moving into something that you know is not just wrong, like it's just not helpful, it's destructive. Do you ever notice that you never go to someone who you know will remind you that that's not helpful and destructive and is wrong? Do you notice that you kind of avoid those people? Anyone? Right? It's common, isn't it? It's natural. That's the enemy's favorite tactic. Do you ever notice that at times that you get pulled away, you're like, I don't have time for youth group, I got all this other stuff going on, I don't have time to get with other believers, I don't have time for whatever. Do you ever notice? That's his favorite tactic, is to isolate us from the enemies, or from the shepherd's voice and from the shepherd's people. And some of you friends, listen. Some of you in this room, you have sat here, or in your huddle, more importantly, with your youth group. And while you've been here together and we've had all this time together, you've not let anybody really know who you are. You've not been open or honest about what's really going on inside and what's really going on with you. And I swear to you, I think the enemy sits back and just laughs. That you have this whole plate, all this time set aside, all this time, and still, and then he's got you believing this lie, like no one cares about me. No one even really knows me. Because you won't let them know you. I beg of you, if that is you tonight, when you get to your huddles tonight, would you open yourself up to these, your brothers and sisters? Would you, may your bold move may literally simply be, I was willing to be vulnerable for the first time. I was willing to say, this is what's really going on in here, guys. This is what's really happening in here. He's our bold God. He is on the move. He is moving towards you. He knows you by name. He's calling you, follow me. He's moving between you and your very real enemy. He's laid down his life for you. He's fighting for you. He has fought for you. He will fight for you, and he will continue to fight for you because he wants to bring you safely home to himself. But he's not just fighting for you. He's moving beyond you. He's looking beyond you. What? Look what the next verses say. Let's look at this. Verse 16, I have other sheep too that are not in this sheepfold. Some people think that's a verse about aliens. No joke. Like they hear other sheepfold. Okay, I'm getting off track. But literally aliens. Like, oh, he's talking about Mars. All right? Literally, trust me, Google it later. I have other sheep too that are not in this sheepfold. I must bring them in also. They will listen to my voice, and there will be one flock and one shepherd. What is Jesus saying? Simply, he's saying this. I have other sheep. I'm talking to you. And oftentimes he would say, I'm talking to you Jews here, but there's the Gentiles that are out here. What that really means is I have a love for people, not just for you, not just for your small group, not just for your student ministry, not just for your little youth group, not just for your little friendship cluster. I'm fighting for you, but I'm not just fighting for you. I have people of every language, tribe, nation, and time period in my mind. I'm moving towards you, I'm moving between you, but I am also moving beyond you, and I'm asking you, do you want to join me in this? You just heard Emily's story, that this bold God spoke to her in a room like this, and basically was saying this, Emily, I've got people, sheep of another fold. They speak German. I love them. I want them. Emily, will you join me in Berlin? And he is calling every single one of you in this room to join him. He is saying to you, I have sheep of another flock. Will you join me in what I'm doing? And now you're going like, Shane, now you're sounding like Jesus. I have no idea what you mean. Listen. He calls it another flock. You call it your soccer team. He calls it another flock. You call it your robotics and engineering club. He calls it another flock. You call it your lacrosse team. He calls it another flock. You call it band. He calls it another flock. You call it your swim team. He calls it another flock. You call it your family. He's already placed you. That's what Matt was talking about last night. He's already placed you in places, people of another flock, and he's saying, listen. I want them as well. I'm fighting for you, but I'm fighting for them. Will you join me in what I want to do with them? Would you bring me to them? We have a bold God, friends. He is on the move towards you, on the move between you, and on the move beyond you. He has a bigger vision for your life than you have for your life. He has a bigger vision for your friendships than you have for your friendships. He has a bigger vision for your student ministry than you have for your student ministry. And I think tonight he's asking us these two questions. If that's who he is, and if that's where he's going, then is there anything I came in here with that needs to stay here? Is there anything I've come in here with that I need to lay down? He laid down his life for me, and then he says he took it up again. Is there anything that he's saying to us, to you, that's not going to serve you well anymore? That's stealing from you. That's killing you. Leave it here. For some of you, is he saying this? Listen, I want you to lay down your little lammy version of Jesus. I want you to lay down fear. I want you to lay down this idea of comparing yourself to everyone else. It's not serving you well. It's killing you. I want you to lay down this sense that it's just your parents' faith. It's yours. Are you ready to take hold of it? That I don't just follow him because mom and dad do. I'm not just banking on mom and dad's faith. I'm laying mom and dad's faith down, and I'm taking up my relationship with Jesus. For some of you, you came in here and you have thoughts of suicide. You've wondered whether this will be the last summer. You've already thought, and I'm not just saying a fleeting thought, like you have a plan, you've thought it through. You're going, I'm not going back to school in 2019. Saying, I have greater purpose for you. I know you. I've made you. Lay it down. Some of you, it's pornography. He's going, it's killing you. It's killing you. Lay that down. For some of us, it's just simply, are you hiding? And he's saying, this hiding, will you lay it down? But then what will you take up? He said he asks us to lay it down, just as he laid down his life for us, and took up a new life. He asks us as well to do the same, that we might be able to lay down what we have so that we could take up the life that he's always been dreaming for us. For some of us in this room, is he asking you to take up simply your sonship and daughtership, your daughterhood, that you belong to him, that you're his son, that you're his daughter. And as Ben was speaking all the way back on Monday, it was like this light bulb that went off, this bomb that went off in your heart, that he actually loves me as a son or a daughter. And you're going, as I walk out of here, he's not asking you to do something. He's going, will you rest in that? I love you. For some of you, he's asking you to take up your soccer team. And he's saying, listen, I made you fast and gave you great ball handling skills. And I put you on that team with that coach because I want those people, those teammates, to get a tangible touch of who I am and to hear of who I am. For some of you, is he asking you to say, as you did your bowl, you walked through your sending huddle this morning, is he saying, I'm asking you to take up a new seat in the student ministry, a new place and a new role, not just to be a consumer. one who just comes, and it's just about me, and I have friends, and it's my little huddle and stuff. But he's saying, I want you to take up, if this bold move that came out of your study huddle, if it's going to take place, the only way it's going to take place is if you step up and say, whether everyone else does or not, I'm in. I'm in. Maybe for some, he's asking you, like he did Emily, and he's putting a particular people in a different place of the world on your heart today. And he's saying, I'm moving there. I want them to. Will you join me there? Listen, I don't know what it is, but here's what I want us to do. Can we spend a moment, and can we spend a few minutes, and can we get before that throne, that lapis lazuli throne, and can we just simply ask him before we leave here? Can we just ask him those two questions? If you turn if you've got your little handbook there, if you turn into page 59, would you just grab that and a pen? And can we quietly, if no one would leave this room, if it's just you and the risen King sitting on his throne, can we just listen to him? He says, my sheep, I'm the good shepherd, and my sheep, they hear my voice. I want to give us a few moments to literally just listen, to get before that throne and to listen to him as quiet as we can, and just simply to say, and if you want to get on your knees, you can get on your knees. If you want to stand, you can stand. But would you ask him, Jesus, what do you want me to lay down? What do you want to stay here? And what is it that you're wanting me to take up? What is it that you're asking of me? What's the life that you're dreaming for me? So we're going to just pray. We're going to pray as we end here. My Father in heaven, I ask you in the name of Jesus Christ, your risen Son. You are the good shepherd. You are our God who is boldly on the move. And I pray that you would speak to every single person in this room. Would you block out every distraction, both in the seen world and unseen world? Would you open our ears that we might hear you? And we come before you, O God, and we ask you, what is it, you who laid down your life for us and took it up again, what is it as your followers that you are asking us to lay down, and what is it that you are asking us to take up? Speak, O God. Jesus, we ask you. In the name of the Lord, we pray and ask you, O God. Speak. Pray and ask you that you would speak, O God. Pray and ask you, God, that you would speak, O Jesus. Ask you that you would speak, O Jesus. Pray and ask you that you would speak, O God. Speak, O God. Pray and ask, O God. Hear every person. Pray and ask you, Jesus. Praise God, O God. Please speak, O God. Please speak, O God. Move in every heart, O Lord God. Move in every heart. Move in every heart, O God. Move in every heart, O God. invite you wherever you are to just write it down. Maybe the Lord put a word. You might have just seen a word. He might have put a picture in your mind. It's important for us to name it. You might have just an impression on your heart. It might have been something he even spoke earlier this week. But would you write it down? And as you write it down, would you offer it to him? If you've already written it down, just lay it in your hands before him. Would you just offer it to him as if offering yourself to him? To even envision in your mind that throne, and that you're just bringing it before the Shepherd King. And you're simply saying to him, God, here's my life. Here's my life. I want you, God. I need you. The answer is yes, Jesus. Yes, Jesus. God, I'm willing to go where you want me to go. I'm willing to do what you want me to do. God, yes, Jesus. One bold move I'm going to ask you to make with that is I'm going to ask you to rip it out. Just right where you are, we just rip it out. I'm going to ask you to fold it in half. And at some time this night, would you do this? Would you hand this to one of the youth leaders that are with you that you trust? They love you. They've sacrificed much to be here with you. And would you place that in their hand? They're not going to read that in front of the group. That's for you to do if you want to talk about it with your group. But would you say to them, I'm going to need help with this. It's your way of saying, I'm going to need help with this. And would you place that in their hand tonight? Oh, Lord God, we thank you. We praise you. You are our bold God, and you are on the move. And we want to join you in what you're doing in this world. Thank you that you are moving towards us, calling us. Thank you that you're moving between us and fighting for us, but that you're not just fighting for us, that you're fighting for all those and the specific flocks that you've placed us in. Give us your heart for them in the name of Jesus. Amen.